Hi, this is John Pike. I'm going to be talking about a topic that's near and dear to every one of our hearts, and that is the subject of money. Money, they say, makes the world go round, but many times money is actually tied closely into debt, especially when central banks and governments end up printing money. Right now, the US government has a credit card that actually has an outstanding balance of 17 trillion US dollars. Every single day, America needs to pay China $74 million in interest, and that's only 12% of its total debt. During February 2014, there's been a massive sell-off by China of US treasuries because they're starting to lose confidence in both the US economy and the US dollar. But wouldn't it be great if you and I could make our minimum payment by printing money in our garage or basement? Well, that's exactly what the US government does. In fact, the Federal Reserve prints money for the US government to help it meeting its payments. But there's a catch. And the catch is that it impacts you and I, because every time money is printed, the value of our money in our pocket actually gets reduced. And that actually has a direct impact on you as you're watching this video now on a day-to-day basis. It destroys our spending power out into the future and whittles away our wealth. Well guys, if the US continues to print money the way that it has been, the US dollar will be destined to fall. It will lose its place, coveted spot and position as the world's reserve currency. Sometime out into the future, if this continues, a loaf of wheat bread could end up costing you $23, or a 32 ounce or 1 kilogram pack of sugar could end up costing as much as $62. The question I have is, where will you be in all of that in 5 to 10 years time if your dollars today are only worth 10 cents out into the future? We actually need to plan and prepare, and if we do, we could become extremely wealthy, and I'll be touching on that towards the end of this video. Extremely wealthy through real wealth. Picture this, guys, and picture it this way. If you have a glass of milk, it tastes like milk, but if you actually dilute it with water, do you really believe that the taste is going to become stronger, or will it become more dilute? It's starting to lose its flavour already. But if you keep on going, what's going to happen is after a while it's going to get really cloudy compared to being really milky. And people are going to start to wonder what's going on here. They just sense that something's wrong and it just isn't right the way that it should be. Well, this just isn't happening in the US. Over in Australia, where I'm from, Australian dollars are actually credited to overseas banks. The Australian dollar is a very popular currency in terms of being traded. And what happens is, and what has happened in the last 10 years in Australia alone, the actual purchasing power of Australian dollars for the citizens there have gone down by 23%. It's just that it happens small amounts at a time, and you don't notice it overnight. But if you step back in time, you would notice it compared to today's spending power. Look, this whole issue isn't that difficult. 2 to 3 years ago, I spoke to an 11-year-old, and they said, if you had a Beanie Kid, which is a limited edition giddy-up Beanie Kid, and they understood the value of this, if you had just thousands and thousands and millions of them, this 11-year-old said they wouldn't be that valuable if they became really, really common. They'd lose their value. Well, how about we take a step back in history? Let's go back 5,000 years and go back to ancient Egypt. If you opened an Egyptian tomb, what do you think that you would find? Do you think you'd find lots of paper currency, ancient Egyptian pounds made by papyrus? I don't think so. You know that you would find gold. In fact, the pharaohs considered gold to be divine. They placed great significance on it. This is just a small example, as you know, from Tutankhamun. Imagine what would have been found in Ramses III's tomb, and that would have been pillaged over time. The Egyptians were considered one of the most advanced civilizations on the face of the earth. If you opened a tomb of an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, you would find it filled with gold. You know, Robert Kiyosaki, noted author of the Rich Dad Poor Dad series, says that gold is money made by God because it can't be printed, and it certainly doesn't grow on trees. Gold has been a reliable monetary system for over 5,000 years, from ancient Egypt through ancient Rome all the way up, even in the US until 1971. Back in ancient Rome, a 1 ounce of gold would buy a suit of armour, or a very classy dressy toga for the Romans. In 1900, you could buy a gentleman's suit with 1 ounce of gold. So as you can see, not much has changed in the last 1800 years. Noted American financier and statesman Bernard M. Barak said, "If something holds true over 2,000 years, I do not believe that it's due to prejudice or mistaken theory." Bill Parcells, famous NFL coach, said that you are as good as your record says you are, and gold has had an untarnished record as a sound monetary system over the last 5,000 years. I mean, even today, 1 ounce of gold will buy you a fine suit. In 1900, if we go back to the turn of that century, 1 ounce of gold was worth $20 and it would buy 20 loaves of bread. However, now $20 will buy about 6 loaves of bread, whereas 1 ounce of gold today will buy you 575 loaves of bread. So the purchasing power of gold in terms of food like loaves of bread, your daily bread, has actually gone up over that 100-year period, whereas the US dollar has gone down by 97%. Back in 1971, President Nixon actually took the US off the last vestige of the gold standard, bringing to an end the Bretton Woods era. And guess what? Since that time, US debt has gone up from $414 billion to a massive $17 trillion debt. That's an increase of over 3,300%. Do you start to see how that debt and paper money are linked and tied together? Because gold holds back the ability to create so much debt. Well, the thing is, would you trust someone to run your household like that? I wouldn't. But the thing is, most people trust the government to run the nation's household finances. And people have implicit trust of the US government backing the US dollar. But the thing is, with any currency in the world, it has to be limited by its supply. But the thing is, the Federal Reserve can print for the US government pretty well an unlimited supply of dollars, either in paper or digitally. So many times, and that is at zero cost, so many times the dollars are not even worth the money that they're not even printed on when they're done digitally. If you'd have put $10,000 into gold back in 2002, it would be worth over $50,000 to $60,000. That's an increase of over 500% to 600% in that time frame. And in 2009, something very interesting started to happen for the first time in 30 years. Central banks actually began to buy and acquire gold for their reserves. India was the first one in 2009 to make a major move, buying over 200 metric tons of gold from the IMF in 2009. Analysts say that China will be increasing their reserves by 700% to over 8,000 metric tons. And China demand just isn't from their central bank. The Chinese government encouraged their people to go ahead and invest and save into gold. Do they see something that's coming that maybe other people in the West don't see? In 2013, China demand rose 32%. And they've become the world's #1 consumer of gold. They encourage their citizens to invest in gold. They're an industrial superpower, and their citizens make up 20% of the world's population or more, with an abundance of savings. That's going to put further upward pressure on the price of gold, especially with greater demand. Some of the world's largest investors, like George Soros, John Paulson, Thomas Kaplan, Jim Rogers, and many more, are putting billions of dollars into gold. And since 2000, the year 2000, gold has pretty well outperformed every asset class, whether it's stocks, shares, real estate, or any other paper-based asset. The thing about gold is it can't be created from thin air. It does have to be mined and extracted out of the ground at a cost. And if you took all of the gold in history that's been extracted from the ground and refined it down to 99.99% purity, it would only fill 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. And the thing is, if the US continues to print money the way that it is now into the future, it's going to end up going the way of its predecessor, the continental dollar. So the US has actually had the experience of hyperinflation in the late 1800s, but most people forget about that. The thing though is, where do you and I stand in all of this? Will we be ready if the US dollar collapses? What will be the impact on us? You know, I've mentioned Robert Kiyosaki before, but do you know what this guy actually says about money itself and about gold? He says that paper money, cash, is trash. He doesn't say that cash is king, and he's got a noted advisor as well, Mike Maloney, who's written a book on gold and silver. I highly recommend that you check these out. Robert Kiyosaki said it's not gloom and doom to be aware of these things. In fact, in that book Prophecy, he said the most positive thing that you can do for a friend is to let them know if around the next bend the road has been washed out. Don't panic, don't get overwhelmed by gloom and doom, but do be aware. Now I'd like to come back to you, the most important person watching this video right now. Let's make it personal. The most important economy in the world to you is the economy of your house, that of your family. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking that, hang on, I'm struggling. You must be kidding. I don't have the money to just go out and buy an ounce of gold at a time. I'm not going to let my family starve. I'm not going to dish up an ounce of gold to them in the future and say, look, nibble slightly because we've got to have this last us the whole month. You know, I actually get that. And so does people at Karatbars International. We get that. We understand that. But let me ask you this. What if there was a way to actually get into pure gold for an absolute fraction of an ounce? What if you could actually set in motion a monthly savings plan where you didn't have to worry, you could set and forget putting a fixed amount into pure transaction-friendly amounts of currency-grade gold, and you could not even worry about whether the price goes up. It's just putting that away for the future. Do you know that less than 5% of households in the Western world have a savings plan, let alone a savings plan into gold? Well, the great news is now you can. Because with Karatbars International, they have 1 gram increments of gold in cards like this that are holographically certified actually for your protection. The actual gold itself is 99.99% pure, and it's refined and produced in a refinery that's LBMA certified, which stands for the London Bullion Marketing Association. Each card actually also comes with its own serial number and an added measure for your protection. This gold, the gold that is actually in this card, is currency grade gold, it's listed on the London Good Delivery list. And the thing is now, you can afford to save money into gold. And with Karatbars International, you can set up a savings plan where you take money out of one pocket that's losing value through inflation step by step, and you can actually put it into the other pocket. And guess what? You keep your money. You're not spending it. It's not discretionary income you lose. It's money you save and you keep for the future, putting it away for a rainy day. You know, I talked a lot about paper money being tied to debt. Well, the thing is, precious metals are actually free of debt of any kind. In fact, they represent financial freedom and sound monetary systems. Well, if any of this sounds interesting at all, feel free to go ahead and get on one of our webinars so that we can share more information with you. We've got them at both 12 and 9 p.m. twice daily, 7 days a week. So go ahead and lock in a time and a date now, and we'd be delighted to let you know more, because we've got a 12-week plan that'll also show you a strategy where you can be well on your way to financial freedom and financial independence. We'll look forward to catching you on the other side. Go ahead and check out this website and lock that time and date into your calendar now, and we'll see you on the other side. Well guys, if you're unable to make those times, you can actually go ahead and opt in at the link that I'm putting up here, and also that'll be below this video, so that you'll be able to opt in and find out how you can start today getting your own savings account in absolute pure gold. Okay? In 1 gram increments, you can start from today onwards. Go ahead, opt in as I said. Feel free to grab that information right now, and I've got a condensed summary presentation that'll be covering the product, the opportunity, and also the great incentives with this program. I'll look forward to catching up with you on the other side. See you soon, and bye for now.